Nora had stored the medicinal herbs in a black plastic bag. She answered casually, "It's just some medicinal herbs. I want to treat Grandma's eyes." Melissa was a little surprised. "You know herbology?" Nora was about to answer when Sheena interrupted, as if she would know anything about herbology. "It's probably an over-the-counter ointment that she brought without giving any thought to the ingredients. Your grandmother has been blind for over 20 years. We've spoken to several doctors, and none of them had a cure. You'd better not use untried and unverified medicine on her. Your grandmother is old and fragile. Are you going to take some responsibility if something goes wrong?" Her contempt made Nora frown. Simon angrily interrupted. "That's enough, Sheena. Nora is innocent. Why are you taking your anger out on her?" Immediately, Sheena turned her anger and frustration on Simon. Watching the exchange in front of her, Nora decided not to say anything. She quietly slipped out of the room and went upstairs to her grandma's bedroom. Her grandmother was resting on the sofa, quietly weeping. She had heard the argument downstairs. When the door opened, she turned her head in that direction and asked, "Who is it?" Her eyes looked blank, and her silver hair was tied neatly behind her head. The lights in the room were switched off. Sitting alone in the dim room, she was a heartbreaking sight. Nora looked down, hiding her emotions. She tried to make her voice sound as light-hearted as possible and replied with a smile, "It's me, Grandma." "Oh, Nora." Her grandmother wiped her tears and sat up. She reached for Nora's hand and said, "Here, come to Grandma." When Nora walked over with Cherry and sat down on the sofa, her grandmother sighed and continued, "Nora, your Aunt Sheena may sound bitter and angry, but she's actually a softie at heart. Just ignore whatever she says. It's all nonsense." That made Nora smile. "Okay, Grandma." She opened the bag she had been holding and took out the pills and ointment inside. Meticulously, she explained to her grandmother how to use the medicine. After making sure the old woman had committed her instructions to memory, she chatted with her for a while more before leaving. Before going home, Sheena had gone up to check on her mother. As she was about to say goodnight, she noticed dark-colored medicine on the table and frowned. "Mum, where did you get this medicine? You can use the ointment if you want, but please don't take the pills. Medicinal herbs have a variety of uses. If the wrong herb is used in a formula, the effects could differ vastly from the intended purposes. These pills don't look like they were prescribed by a proper doctor. You shouldn't take them. You have no idea what kind of reaction you could have." Mrs. Anderson frowned and replied, "Okay, fine, I heard you." After Sheena had left, Melissa also came to check on her mother, to see if she had gone to bed yet. When she saw the pills on the table, she was surprised. Then she picked them up and asked, "What pills are these, Mum? They smell nice." Mrs. Anderson sighed and answered, "Nora gave them to me. They're for my eyes." A look of worry crossed Melissa's face. Nora operated on Simon, so she must be a surgeon, but she probably doesn't know as much about herbology and pharmacology. Frustrated, Mrs. Anderson suggested, "Why don't you ask her about the formula?" Melissa shook her head. "Nora has only just returned to us, and then Sheena made such a show of being mean to her. If I ask her about the formula now, we'll hurt her feelings. She'll think we don't trust her. What about this? Cheryl studies herbology and pharmacology. I'll get her to come home tomorrow and have a look at these pills." The old lady nodded. Melissa placed the pills on the coffee table and helped her mother to the bed. Having settled her for the night, she left. As soon as Melissa was out the door, Mrs. Anderson quickly got up. She gently tapped her cane in front of her to avoid walking into anything, and she made her way to the coffee table. She fumbled about, letting her fingers glide over the coffee table until she found the pills. She held one to her nose and sniffed. A refreshing scent enveloped her senses, and a feeling of comfort and peace washed over her. She couldn't help picking up a glass of water and swallowing the pill. Then she took the ointment and applied it around her eyes. "I've been blind for more than 20 years. I may as well give it a try." The Hunts had scheduled a family meeting at the hospital for Sunday to discuss what they should do about Pete. At home, Cherry was wearing cute yellow pajamas and resting her chin on her hands. She asked curiously, "Mummy, Aren't you going over to the hospital to keep an eye on things? Pete isn't good at talking. What if someone bullies him? Nora, who had been getting dressed, paused briefly and raised an eyebrow. If your brother gets kicked out of the Hunt family, won't that mean that he can come and stay with us instead? Cherry stared at her mother in shock, but Nora was only kidding. Even if she could take her son away from the Hunt family, she wouldn't do it in a way that humiliated him like that. She wouldn't allow these false accusations of having a mental illness or pushing his great-grandmother down the stairs to become a lifelong burden weighing Pete down. Nora told Cherry to stay home and then drove to the hospital. The Hunts owned NYC General Hospital. As a precaution to ensure that she was not disturbed, the elderly Mrs. Hunt had been placed on the VIP ward on the top floor. For the time being, no other patients were on the same floor. When Nora arrived at the hospital, she found that the hallway on that floor was filled with members of the Hunt family. In addition to Justin's uncle's family, whom she had met before, there were many new faces. Obviously, the situation had escalated. As she got closer to the room, she heard Justin's second uncle, Raymond, making a scene. How can he say that it wasn't Peter who did it? Look at where we are. Yet he's still flat out denying it. He's not going to admit it until Mum wakes up to testify. How ridiculous is that? If the boy murders someone, is he going to wait for the victim to come back to life and testify against him? Howard, what do you think we should do about this? Howard, whose biceps were bulging in the black t-shirt he was wearing, touched his nose, thinking about how to respond. Uncle Raymond, what Grandpa means is that Pete is still a 5-year-old child. The corner of Roger's eyes turned up. It looked a little as if he were smiling, even though he wasn't. He heaved a sigh and said, Howard, I know you're on good terms with Justin, and he's the head of the family. Having you handle this puts you in a difficult position. Maybe we should just drop the matter. An angry Raymond yelled, Howard, your grandfather has always made a clear distinction between business and personal matters. If you're not capable of that, you shouldn't be allowed to take over the responsibility of watching over the family. Stuck between Roger and Raymond, Howard simply couldn't put in a good word for Pete. He looked at Justin anxiously, only to see him looking calm and steady. Howard forced himself to calm down. When she wakes up. If Mum never wakes up, are we just going to put this off forever? Raymond interrupted aggressively. Oh, I get it now. No wonder Justin stubbornly went ahead with the operation, despite Dr. York and several other specialists stating that they didn't recommend Mum undergoing surgery. Tell me, Justin, are you hoping that your grandmother never wakes up so that you can keep that as an excuse to drag this out? Everyone looked at Justin. Raymond narrowed his eyes. No wonder you got a doctor we've never seen before to do the procedure, and no wonder Mum still hasn't woken up. As soon as the angry words left his mouth, an elated Tina York walked out of the ward. The people standing in the hallway outside Mrs. Hunt's ward hadn't noticed Tina yet. Roger said mildly, Justin, the doctor who performed the procedure looked really young, probably still in her 20s. We haven't seen her since the operation, right? That single line from him had been enough to raise everyone's suspicions. Raymond pointed at Justin and yelled, Even though his son pushed someone down the stairs, he still blindly shelters and indulges him. Then he goes and gets some nobody doctor to treat her injuries. Justin, you've gone too far. You need to explain your actions in front of the whole family. I didn't expect you to be so cruel. She's your grandmother. Nervous energy surrounded everyone in the hallway as they started speculating amongst themselves. Raymond and his son Roger shared a triumphant look with each other. Listening to the speculations, Howard lowered his voice and anxiously whispered, Why isn't Great-Grandma awake yet, Justin? Who did you get to perform this procedure on her? I can't hold them back much longer. Justin's eyes glittered darkly. He trusted the surgeon he chose. He wouldn't have approached her, and he never would have asked her for her help if he didn't. He believed her when she said that his grandmother would regain consciousness on Sunday. He countered coldly, Uncle Raymond, are you in such a hurry that you can't even wait until sundown? There was no need for Justin to raise his voice. He spoke quietly, his voice low and clear, and even through all the noise, his words were clearly heard by everyone there. Everyone in the hallway fell silent. A mean and sinister look filled Roger's eyes. With his smile firmly in place, he replied, "Everyone here is an important person in their own right. We have politicians and businessmen who are needed elsewhere. Are you just going to tell them all to wait when they've put aside everything to be here today?" Raymond also added sharply, "You're obviously stalling for time. It's been 2 weeks since the incident, yet you're still telling us to wait. Howard, there is substantial evidence to prove that Peter injured his great-grandmother. Are you going to take a clear stance on the issue? And Justin, too, you showed no regard for your grandmother's life and randomly get some doctor to operate on her. She may never wake up again. You have to take responsibility for this." He stared at Justin expectantly. At first, Raymond had only intended to use this issue as a way to get rid of the little bastard. But he never thought Justin would also get involved. This was his perfect opportunity to take over Justin's position as head of the family. As he thought this, a woman's high-pitched voice reached them. "Who said Mrs. Hunt won't ever wake up again? She's already awake." Tina stepped aside to reveal a nurse helping Mrs. Hunt out of her room. The elderly lady was dressed in a hospital gown, and she had bandages wrapped around her head, but the look in her eyes was sharp. When she came out, everyone in the hallway fell silent. Raymond and Roger glanced at each other. Together, the two of them took a step forward, acting excited. "Mum! Grandma!" Raymond tried to go in for a hug, but Mrs. Hunt would have none of it. Without warning, she lifted her arm and slapped him with all her strength. The slap landed across Raymond's cheek. A furious Mrs. Hunt scolded, "You are a horrible man. Pete was trying to pull me back before I fell. He's a good boy. Why would he push me down the stairs? Are you trying to start a mutiny in the family? Why have you gathered so many people here? Did you think that would help your cause?" Raymond was shocked. Roger paused and quickly reassessed his next words. Then, careful to keep his expression contrite, he lowered his head and said, "Sorry, Grandma. Dad was just worried about you." "Humph," was the only sound heard in the hallway. Mrs. Hunt decided to leave her grandson with a little bit of his dignity. She looked all around the hallway and said, "All of you can go now." Then she promptly turned around and shuffled back to the ward. The rest of the family left one by one. Justin and the remaining family members followed Mrs. Hunt into the ward. Nora quietly started walking over. She stopped at the door and heard the old lady say, "It's all thanks to Tina that I could wake up in time." Tina stood proudly in her white lab coat next to Mrs. Hunt's bed. As she directed her scorching gaze at Justin, a faint smile pulled at the corner of her lips. "Mr. Hunt, this is the Carefree pill. It has a refreshing effect on the mind and was made by Mr. Myers, my teacher who taught me herbology and pharmacology. There are only 2 of these pills in the world, and it was only through special means that he managed to preserve them for 25 years. After much begging, I finally got him to give me one." Nora, who had been leaning casually against the wall, eavesdropping, was bewildered. After 25 years of storage, even if the pill hadn't expired, it probably wouldn't be effective anymore. Tina boasted excessively about the pill's effects. "This pill doesn't have any side effects. It refreshes the mind, detoxes and nourishes the body, and can even treat patients with cerebral hemorrhage. It's practically an elixir." The corners of Nora's lips spasmed. That pill had nothing to do with Mrs. Hunt regaining consciousness. The effects didn't even correspond with her symptoms. She shook her head and decided to simply turn and leave. Inside the ward, Justin's eyes flashed with mockery. If that pill was really effective, why would Tina wait until today to give it to Grandma? In the end, wasn't her recovery really because Nora had successfully operated on her? At best, that pill probably just made her more alert and refreshed. At that thought, he noticed a flash of movement outside the door. He walked outside to see a familiar figure entering the elevator. The corners of Justin's lips curled up in a smile. Didn't she say she wouldn't be coming over? Yet here she is. Is she worried about Grandma's condition? Or is she worried about me? His internal conversation was interrupted when he heard Raymond say, Justin's expression darkened. The look in his eyes was ice cold as he said, "Now that Grandma has regained consciousness, it's time for us to settle some scores, Uncle Raymond." The carefree pill. Sheena clenched her fists furiously. In a fit of anger, she swept the glasses off the coffee table and onto the floor and shouted, "Our sister was obviously the one who made the pills. John Myers has no shame. How underhand of him to claim that he made them." Simon pursed his lips. With a defeated look, he said, "We don't have the formula for the carefree pill. Nobody will believe us if we try to set the record straight. On the contrary, they'll mock us and accuse us of being jealous. That horrible family has now made a name for themselves by finding a cure for Mrs. Hunt. To make matters worse, they're using us as a stepping stone. It's probably all over for us in Harmonia Pharmacy." Sheena's eyes narrowed. She gritted her teeth and said, "I don't have a problem with their advertising, but what makes them think they can step all over us and one-up us?" Cheryl entered the room. When she noticed the distressed look on everyone's faces, her heart sank. "Dad, Aunt Sheena, what's the matter?" Melissa got up. "You're too young. There's no need for you to worry about all the grown-up stuff. Why don't you check out that pill for your grandma and see if it's good enough for her to take?" Cheryl nodded and followed Melissa upstairs. But when they entered Mrs. Anderson's room, they found her sitting on the sofa as if in a daze. Confused, Melissa asked, "What's wrong, Mum?" The dazed old lady replied, "It seems my eyes are having a bit of a reaction." Her words stunned Melissa. Then she snatched the pills from the table and passed them to Cheryl. "Quick, have a look at these. What kind of pill is it?"
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.